you need Vicks VapoCool drops. Their max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast!
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
This is New England's full service radio. 830 WCRN, Worcester, Boston.
This is the Peter Blute Show on AM 830 WCRN. To join in the conversation, call 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Peter Blute.
All right, folks. Whoa, we got an echo there. Let's get rid of that. Try that. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Sunday edition of the Peter Blute Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. No, I'm not Peter Blute. Joe Mangiacotti filling in for Peter Blute. He'll be back next week. Just under the weather a little bit today. So get better, Peter. Stay isolated. Come back next Sunday. I just realized what a coincidence that he's sick on Super Bowl Sunday. I'm sure it has no correlation whatsoever. All right, let's do the housekeeping. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. That will get you into the studio for two-way talking conversation. Or text line is running at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. Hey, you can text that like you do anyone else. It appears on the screen here in the studio in real time, and we try to work it into the conversation. Not the nasty stuff, just the stuff that adds to the conversation. The station is streaming 24/7 to the TuneIn app, and I love that feature, folks, because that means you can take us anywhere. You can stream us live on your device, your tablet, your phone, your laptop, even on your computer at home, whatever the case, or tell Alexa to play WCRN, and she'll do that. No questions asked. Now, we are streaming as well to the station's Facebook page and YouTube channel, and my stuff. Even though it's Peter's show, I am streaming it to my social media like I do with my show. So that means you can also watch and listen on my Facebook page, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, X, and yes, we're streaming live to Rumble. So multiple ways to watch and multiple ways to listen. Russ is flying the board behind the glass back at HQ. He'll get you set up and into the studio for two-way talk and conversation at 508-871-7000. Again, 508-871-7000. So a lot of ways to do that. Let's kick off. Obviously, it is Super Bowl Sunday. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but let me bring into the conversation Phil George from Health Wave Radio here.
Wellness Wave Radio.
Sorry? What? I didn't hear you.
Wellness Wave Radio.
Wellness Wave Radio. I didn't know what I said. Sorry, Phil. Hey, let's fight into the conversation. Hey, Phil, good morning. You look marvelous.
Well, so I have a question for you to get you straight. Make sure you're awake, okay?
Oh, God. Go ahead. What's up? Only one cup of coffee this morning, and it was Catan Farms coffee. It was fantastic.
Okay, well, we'll give you an excuse then. You only had one cup. I know Russ has had several, so I know he's wide awake.
I'm still on the first one, Phil.
Oh, really? Well, Russ also works like 28 jobs, so he just doesn't sleep, I think.
Sometimes I think I sleep standing up.
That's a good quality. What's up, Phil? Go ahead. Let's get me going.
Okay, so Joe, what do you think the number one fear people have as they age?
Oh, is the age. I was going to say number one fear is actually public speaking, but number one fear.
Yeah, that's true.
As you grow older, falling maybe, or loneliness. Loneliness is the number one issue, I think, with elderly people.
Well, loneliness is a big issue, and it leads to a lot of medical problems. But let's narrow it down. What do you think the greatest fear of medical conditions is as people get older?
Okay. Again, I think fear might be falling, but medical conditions might be Alzheimer's.
There you go. Okay.
Dementia, yeah.
So the number one, yeah, you're right. So So Russ, give him a prize.
That's your department, Phil, not mine. I'm just the producer.
That's all right. I'll go to the WCRN prize closet. I'm the only one with the key.
Can I join you on that, Joe?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So-
I would say that. But they're making some great strides in this area. Are they not, Phil?
No, they're not.
Oh, that's too bad. I thought they were.
Okay, so we're actually going to cover that. The reason that grateful you let me just promote the seminar. So they're also finding, Joe, this actually starts now. It's starting in people as early as in their 40s. So dementia starts way before the Alzheimer's kicks in, Alzheimer's and dementia.
Wait a minute. Really, Russ, who's on the phone with me again? I'm just kidding.
Phil George.
I'm just kidding.
Someone had too much caffeine today. I don't know who it is, though.
No, Phil, tell people, first of all, let them know that there's a seminar coming up so they understand the reference and what we're talking about. Yeah,
so there's a seminar coming up. The Greendale Y has hired myself, and I've teamed up with an ICU nurse, holistic nutrition. Her name is Kelly Hamilton. And we're doing the seminar. It's going to be Sunday the 15th. It's going to be at noontime at the Greendale Y. You do not have to be a member to come in. It is $10 per person. But we run it a lot differently, Joe. We run it like, remember that old game, Trivial Pursuit?
Sure, loved it.
Yeah. So it's Trivial Pursuit Health and Wellness Edition. So we give out prizes. So we have questions all through the slide presentation that'll lead to a topic, but also give you a chance to win a prize. So we give out gold coins, but they're not real good, Joe.
Are they
fake
the
gold
chocolate
coins.
Ones?
What's that?
Are they the chocolate ones? Remember when we were kids?
No,
not
the chocolate. No chocolate.
Ah, okay.
And whoever gets the most gold coins, the top three people get a pick. We have kinds of prizes. We've got $25 gift certificates to New Chicken, one of my sponsors. We got all kinds of different prizes. So you get a chance to win. But it's as opposed to a boring lecture. You know, Joe, you sit there and the guy's blah, blah, blah. So we ask a lot of questions about that. And because I'm a biochemist, so I get into what they call the root cause. But to go to your question about have they made a lot of strides, Joe, they spent billions of dollars basically to try to cure Alzheimer's. So actually, I'm going to give you a heads up, Joe. What's one of the questions on there so the people know coming in, they have a chance to win a coin right off the bat. What do you think most people and most scientists believe is the cause of Alzheimer's disease?
Well, I've been reading a lot that they think it has to do with sugar, actually, and basically another form of diabetes and the plaque in the brain, and it's connected to your AC1 and your sugar levels. I don't know if that's accurate.
Well, actually, you're ahead of the game. That's what they're finding out. They're calling now Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm reading about now.
But up to this point, do you remember they spent billions, that's what the B, Joe, on Alzheimer's drugs. And you probably heard of amyloid plaque and tau tangles in the brain.
Yeah.
So the thought was in medicine, it was caused by the amyloid plaque and the tau tangles. So all you had to do was get rid of the amyloid plaque and the tau tangles, and the Alzheimer's would go away. So they developed a ton of drugs on this, and this is in the billions of dollars they did it. Well, what they found out, Joe, that didn't work. In fact, it caused what they call brain bleeds. It does not work because, Joe, have you ever gotten like a really bad cut and got a scab right afterwards?
Sure.
Okay. What would happen is before that scab fell off and healed, you just ripped it off. What would happen?
Bleed again.
Yeah, that's what happened with the amyloid plaque. So when they ripped it off, the amyloid plaque, they found out now, is a protective mechanism for the plaque to prevent any damage to the neurons. So that was the big problem. So they spent billions of dollars. They were barking up the wrong tree with that one. Yeah. What you just said is what they found out is what's actually happening is it's too much sugar, type 3 diabetes. The sugar causes inflammation in the brain, and then the brain gets the inflammation, and then that forms the scabs, that the amyloid plaque and the tau tangles. And so so you're up to date. So this is the latest thing. You got to lower your carb intake and go more to a ketogenic type of diet.
Sure. See, I've always believed, Phil, that our bodies are amazing things and will constantly try to heal itself. But we just got to eat it with the right foods and the organic foods. And the biggest thing I remember as a kid, I had an uncle who retired out of the Navy, and he said to me when I was probably 12 or 13, if you ever want to lose weight, cut everything white out of your diet. And I thought about that, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's sugar and white flour, wheat, salt. I mean, if you think about it, almost everything that's white is probably not good for you. And just reduce the sugar. And I watch my sugar big time because I don't want that A1C to go up. Like I said, this is what I've been reading a lot about this type 3 diabetes, as you said. So, but that's fantastic. We're against the clock. So where, again, Greendale, let's give time, location.
So YMCA, and that's on Shore Drive. And it's, again, just email me, philgeorge@charter.net, but you can just show up. But you can email me if you want any more information. But
what time?
If anybody in your family that's got this, or if, even if you want to maintain your brain health, we get into a lot more. The newest science on this. Again, I'm a biochemist. Kelly's an ICU nurse. So we bring a lot of new information. So come on down.
Noon today, Phil?
What's that?
Noon today?
No, noon next Sunday.
Next Sunday, okay.
The 15th.
All right. Oh, day after Valentine's Day. Good day to pay attention to your heart and health. All right, folks. Phil, thank you so much. Next Sunday at noon at the Greendale YMCA. And you can, geez, I have that echo keeps wanting to go on, guys. Phil, thank you for stopping by and sharing that with us. And remind folks when they can tune into Wellness Wave Radio.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right. Well, I will do it. You can do it weekend mornings. What time do you start, Phil? 7?
7 a.m.
7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Saturday and Sunday mornings. All right, Phil. Fantastic. Thank you. Enjoy the game tonight.
Okay, you too. Bye.
All right, take care. That's Phil George, host of Wellness Wave Radio, weekend mornings here on AM 830 WCRN. Obviously, not Peter Blute. I'm Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute. He will be back next Sunday. Mike Wade will be back a week from Saturday. I believe that's the schedule that we're looking at. And yes, it is Super Bowl Sunday. We'll talk about that. We're going to take our first break here. We do break at the quarter hour in the Peter Blute Show, don't we, Russ?
Yes, we do. In fact, It'll be in just a matter of seconds.
All right, so we'll do that, and we'll be gone for about 2 minutes and 10 seconds. We'll come back on the other side, and of course, at 10:30, we'll be joined by Mr. Jerry Doherty, who is the host of Making Money Last. AM 830 WCRN. Join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Text line 617-297-8388.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Join us for the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast, airing on this station. During each broadcast, Pastor Ray McMahon shares the truth of God's Word on the subject of the unbreakable covenant of marriage. You don't want to miss this opportunity to hear clear and concise biblical teachings on this subject. The Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast with Pastor Ray McMahon.
Join us for Jesus is Our Shepherd, Sundays at noon on AM 830 WCRN.
Dr. Satya Mitra has journeyed from a childhood of poverty and homelessness to a successful career as a financial advisor, motivational speaker, and community leader. Now inspired by his guru, he uses his experiences to positively affect the lives of underprivileged people. We strive to house our blindness, poverty, homelessness, female empowerment, and good citizenship initiatives within the Joy Guru Humanitarian Center. If you wish to contribute or know of deserving persons or initiatives that could use our assistance, please contact us at 508-641-8441.
We invite you to listen each weekday to the Old Trailblazer broadcast with Pastor Albert Pendarvis.
Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Oh, my friend.
That's the Old Trailblazer broadcast with Pastor Albert Pendarvis each weekday on this station.
Heard every weekday at 5:45 a.m. on WCRN AM 830.
fresh and familiar New England hits, evenings at 8 on Radio Central WCRN.
Think you're dealing with drug poisoning, chemical poisoning, food poisoning? Call the Poison Helpline first for fast, free advice from medical professionals. Call 1-800-222-1222 anytime, anywhere. Save the number, save a life. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right. Funky. Good choice there, Russ. Joe Mangiacotti in for Peter Blute. The Peter Blute Show, Sunday mornings, right here now. We're doing 10 to noon, and you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Lines open and available. Russ will get you set up. And don't forget, you can text if you'd like at 617-297-8388. So it is Super Bowl Sunday. Some of you, I think, wait all year for this, right? I mean, we say it all the time. This is the Super Bowl of this. Big day, some controversy over the halftime show. It seems like the last several years, hasn't there been a little controversy over the halftime shows? But it is Super Bowl Sunday, and whether you're here for the football or the commercials or the snacks or all three, tonight is the night. Super Bowl 60 from Levi Stadium out in Santa Clara, California. We got our very own New England Patriots versus the Seattle Seahawks. And that's kind of a rematch, right, from their famous Super Bowl meeting in 2015. But different faces, different coaches, that kind of thing. Hey, New England, they punched their ticket by beating Denver Broncos 10-7 in the AFC Championship. Seattle's path was the Seahawks. They got there with a 31-27 win over the Los Angeles Rams in the NFC Championship. And hey, who is the favorite? Well, translation into some normal people language here, odds makers think that Seattle is a little stronger overall, and they're expecting a game that's more defense and field position than scoreboard on fire. But this is New England. And we're going to cheer for the Patriots, I assume. That's what we're going to do. What is it? 6:30 is the kickoff tonight. And I guess the question is, who are you taking? I assume most of you are going to do it because it's the Patriots. You're going to lean to there. But really, do you have your choice, and why do you have your choice? And then what do you do for Super Bowl? Are you the party house? Are you going to a Super Bowl party, or do you just stay home? And what's your favorite snack? Because look, we adhere to a couple required steps at Super Bowl Sunday, don't we? We eat something that you would never admit that you've eaten it to your doctor, some decadent rich thing. And at some point you're going to text a friend and say, hey, this game is over. And you're going to do that early in the game, then regret it by the third quarter. That's pretty much how things go. And then we do have a controversy, or I don't have a controversy, but there's a controversy over the halftime show. And there's going to be two, not NFL sanctioned two, right? They're doing the Bad Bunny. Now, I'll be honest, I've never even heard of this performer or artist until it came out and announced they were going to be in the halftime show. Okay. Who's Bad Bunny? He's Puerto Rican and some kind of rapper. And I really don't know a lot about him, nor did I care to take the time. Guy. But he's supposed to have some controversy, I guess, I don't know, because of the lyrics. He seems to be, and this again, I didn't do a deep dive, just from the cursory look at the articles and stuff, he's going to take this opportunity to lecture us, apparently, on how bad America is and this and that. Again, is a white noise at this point. Because, it's just to the performers out there. Understand, read the room. What are you there for? Put a great concert on, do this. So what has happened because of apparently the lyrics this guy uses and his anti-American stance and anti-ICE and all this, which, Puerto Rico is a territory, right? So I heard some of the comments he said, but it's almost if he didn't understand that Puerto Rico, nobody gets deported to Puerto Rico. But let's put a pin in that. So we have Turning Point USA, which membership affiliations, chapters, right, have blown up since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Not that it wasn't a multi-million-dollar operation before he was assassinated. Not that they didn't have tons of chapters in colleges and high schools, but people really flooded them to get chapters. So they have grown, and they are going to stream what they're calling the All-American Halftime Show. And this is counter-programming to the halftime show with Bad Bunny. Okay. So we have choices. And the pitch to them is simple, a halftime option that's meant to be family-friendly and patriotic in tone. You know, more faith, family freedom, and just less lecturing. I'm good with the less lecturing. Like, you can choose to go to certain platforms, stations, channels, etc., if you want to be lectured or if you want to have a debate. But when you tune into a concert, especially if you attend a concert, right, folks? I mean, we've heard about this because it usually makes a blip in the news when some artists, whether it's Bruce Springsteen or remember Barbara Anderson, with kind of infamous time because she hadn't done live performance for years, and then she does. And I forget, I'm sure a listener knows, or text if you can remember, or give us a call. It was some ridiculous price. I mean, very expensive for her to come back out and do a live concert. And this is back in the Bush days, and she, stops in the middle of the concert to talk about Bush and lecture us. And a lot of people who ended up between the tickets and the dinners and their travel was a multi-$1,000 night. And the last thing they want to hear from the person they came to hear perform is lecturing them about their politics. Can you just understand that, folks? It's on my list of pet peeves, but it's way down under voter fraud and stuff like that. So Turning Point says, look, and Kid Rock is going to be the headliner there. We're going to give you an alternative. If you don't want to watch this and listen to this guy tell you how you're the problem or you're bad and your country's bad, you can go watch the Turning Point halftime show. Now, how do you watch that? Well, Turning Point says it's going to stream around 8 o'clock. I don't know if they're going to do it right at 8 or time it right to halftime. It makes sense if they actually have filler until it's time for the halftime show. But it's going to be on YouTube, X, and Rumble. At least that's what I found as where it's going to be. So it shouldn't be hard to do. Now, I know a lot of people won't do it because what are you going to do? Put YouTube up on the big screen, right? Or are you going to mute it on the halftime and watch it on the laptop? Who knows? But because it's streaming, we're going to have a pretty good idea of the viewership of it. So later tonight or tomorrow, probably tomorrow on my show at 1 o'clock, I will look this up because I'm going to be interested to see how many people go through the effort, because this means breaking away from watching the show that you have on and having the TV set up for it and everything, to streaming this on either one of those platforms. And they're all easy to get to. All my TVs that are these smart TVs all have YouTube built into it, and Rumble for that matter, so you can switch to it. But they'll know the streaming numbers between YouTube, X, and Rumble, so we'll take a look at that. And as I said, they announced Kid Rock and some other country and rock artists will also be performing. So what do you do? 508-871-7000. What are you going to do for Super Bowl tonight? Home, to someone else's house, or are you hosting the Super Bowl party? For several years, I went to a friend's sister's house for Super Bowl, and it was a big deal. They were massive Patriot fans in a big, big family room. And it's one of those family rooms that they added on to the house later. So it has the vaulted ceilings and the bar and a massive TV. And all year long, there are Patriots paraphernalia on the wall. It's not like they decorated it. And I was there for a couple of the Super Bowl wins. Tonight, I'm going to different house, different friend. Actually, a host here on the station is having a Super Bowl thing. So and I don't even know if we'll get to the end of it, to tell you the truth. So what do you do for Super Bowl? Do you host the party? Do you go to a party, or do you just watch it? And I guess option 4, are you even gonna watch the Super Bowl? There are a lot of people who couldn't care less about the Super Bowl. And I maintain that people who may not follow sports closely and so forth will watch the Super Bowl because it's an event, not just a game, and especially if our very own New England Patriots is in it. So they're going to do it. So halftime begins, somebody's going to grab the remote like it's the Lombardi Trophy there, and then you're going to make that decision. Are you team Bad Bunny, or you're going to be on the no agenda all-American show on the phone or tablet, the laptop, or toss it up into the TV? That's the other thing, right? A lot of these TVs, I don't know about you, but the main TVs in the master bedroom, the living room, and all that have the ability, you can throw your phone up onto the screen. So it just talks to your phone and you can throw it up. So I think it's easy enough to switch around from thing to thing, right? So what say you? What do you do for Super Bowl Sunday? Go to a party, host a party, watch it at home, or number 4, or D, none of the above. Couldn't care less about the Super Bowl. Don't watch it at all. What say you on that? 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. All right, we're going to break shortly, but the Winter Olympics. Well, first, did you hear this story about at the Winter Olympics, they had like a rec bar place for the athletes to go hang out. And for years, traditionally, they call it the Ice House because it's Winter Olympics. But protesters wanted them to change it. They didn't want it to be called Ice House. Think about the stupidity of that. ICE is an acronym. Really. But they did. Olympic Committee caved to the pressure, and now it's called the Winter House instead of the Ice House, rather. It's silly, folks, but we got to take our mid-hour break here on the Peter Blute Show. Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute, back next weekend, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. Stick with us, folks. We'll be back on the other side.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Boston, are you ready for a show that's unique and different? Blind and Beyond Radio Show is the only commercial radio show in the world for the visually impaired and the blind community. We are the bridge between the blind community and the sighted community. This show is sponsored by Carroll Center for the Blind in Newton, Mass. Fun, informative, educational, with trivia prizes every Sunday night. Starting February 1st, Blind and Beyond Radio Show every Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. on WCRN, 8:30 a.m.
No one cares more about quality and keeping customers happy than Good as Gold Coffee Service. For over 45 years, Good as Gold has been privileged to be the preferred coffee supplier of some of the area's finest businesses. Isn't it time for you to make Good as Gold your coffee service? Whether you enjoy freshly roasted coffee beans, pre-measured packs, or single cup solutions, Good as Gold Coffee has the perfect solution for every size business. Call Good as Gold Coffee today at 1-800-322-0439. goodasgold.com.
Life is full of changes. Some we choose, some we don't. But how we handle change, that makes all the difference. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and I'm bringing you Handling Change, a brand new show here on WCRN. Every week, we'll tackle life's biggest challenges and profile a local business or service that can help you navigate them. From career shifts to health, finances, and family. Whatever life throws your way, we've got you covered. Don't miss Handling Change. Thursdays at 10 a.m. on Radio Central, WCRN, 8:30 a.m., where New England comes to talk.
The best Italian cuisine served by some of the nicest folks you'll ever meet is at Ziti's Italian Trattoria. It's fine Italian cooking at the Speedway Shopping Center, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro. It's like sitting down with your family for an authentic home-cooked Italian meal. From intimate dinners to catering for events of all sizes. From pizzas and calzones to classic Italian dinners. Every meal at Ziti's is one you'll remember. Head on down to Ziti's, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro. Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the first hour on the Sunday edition of the Peter Blute Show on AM 830 WCRN, Radio Central. Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute, who will be back next Sunday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Meanwhile, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And Peter does, and I will do, this time every week, we throw it over to and invite into the conversation Jerry Doherty from Making Money Last and Boston Independence Group. Good morning, Mr. Doherty.
Well, good morning, Joe Mangiacotti. Happy Super Bowl Sunday, and I'm interested to hear who you and Russ are choosing as your team of choice for today.
Well, my default setting is always going to be the Patriots, Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics automatically, even if they're the no chance in hell. Still support the local team. I don't know about you, Russ, if you get more into the actual numbers and doing the diagnostics of who's going to win or not. But
well, during the season, I usually follow just two teams. I follow the Patriots and the Bills. I used to follow the Jaguars, but I kind of gave up on them a long time ago. Don't really know the reason why, but
wow, they speak so highly of
New England and Buffalo. But in the case of the Super Bowl, definitely Patriots all the way.
Patriots.
Well, I think that's what happens, right? Joe, you and I both grew up here in Massachusetts. So we naturally have been following the Patriots. It's in our DNA. It's in our blood. But Russ, in his upstate New York, I forget exactly where you're from, Russ, but as a child, you probably did follow the Bills.
I wasn't really a football fan when I was a kid, but later on, as I was becoming an adult, I was starting to hear the football games on the radio, and that was pretty much how I got my start with football. And believe it or not, also the same thing with women's golf with the LPGA, because Corning was a stop on their tour.
Sure.
And that was how I kind of got into watching the LPGA, was because of their stop in Corning with the Corning Classic.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, my younger sister is in a mixed marriage. She's from here, so she's a Boston sports fan, but she married a guy from New York, so he's a New York fan, and they settled in Connecticut. So they would always fight about raising the kids. Are they, which are the Yankees or Red Sox fans? So then they came to a truce and said, well, when they come of age, they can decide. But it was a constant struggle in the house that you had a New York family merged with a Boston area family. And then, of course, they ended up in Connecticut. So that was always a thing within the family. How are you raising our nieces and nephews? Patriots or Yankee fans?
Right. Well, go Pats, and hopefully it'll be a great game. But I'd love to see the Patriots blow it out.
Yeah. So how big is your TV to watch it on? I hope it's massive, Jerry.
I don't have a massive TV, but we have a pretty big TV. I don't know the exact size of it, but it's a good sized TV. Joe.
Because this is the weekend where TV sales skyrocket and returns are also huge on Monday and Tuesday. So people get the 85. Yeah.
So we see a lot of economic activity.
Yeah.
And we see a drop off in economic activity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and Best Buy's like, oh, come on, guys. I mean, they sell thousands of dollars of TVs since Wednesday. And then, whatever, a high percentage gets returned. But, there's probably some people who said, let's do that, honey. We'll we'll get the big TV, we'll put it in there just for the party, and I'll take it back tomorrow on Tuesday. And maybe they get it and they go, wow. Because I don't know if you guys have watched these latest like 4K. My God, are they sharp? They're just something to watch. So maybe I don't know. Jerry, I did want to ask.
I did see, Joe, just one quick thing on the Super Bowl. I did see a 30-second ad on the Super Bowl. I don't know if you saw the numbers this year, but a 30-second ad is apparently, I saw reported, $8 million for a 30-second ad. So I don't know if you're going to throw up any WCRN promos, Joe.
Yeah, well, I'm reworking the budget
for the next 20 years.
Yeah. It's always been a thing, right? I remember when they hit the 5, but 30-second ad. Let me see. $8 million cost. Biggest event in America continues. That is nuts. That is nuts. Think about that. Well, first of all, how big of a company do you have to be able to afford $8 million for 30 seconds?
Right.
And then what's the ROI on that, Jerry? I mean, do they get, or do they, kind of write some of it off? And I don't mean literally write it off, but write it off to, hey, we are Budweiser, we're Coca-Cola, we're this, we're that. We kind of got to be in the Super Bowl. We got to pay the price, even if we don't think that we're going to spend $8 million and that's going to bump our sales by 3 times ROI and get $24 million of sales out of it. How would they even know? You know what I'm saying? I mean, Budweiser, are they on this year? Do you know? I mean, that's been one of the commercials that has been like the classic, right? We all waited for the Clydesdale and the Budweiser commercial. Remember the 3 frogs?
I don't know, but I think that I can't imagine that they would not be.
Yeah.
So I don't know definitively, but it's an enormous amount of money for a 30-second ad show.
One of my favorite Budweiser commercials is the one where you've got the Dalmatian puppies and the fire department or the firefighters show up with the fire truck and they adopt one of the puppies. And the Dalmatian left behind is clearly a little sad, because he's riding and he sees him driving around in the front seat of the fire truck. But then the puppy that was left behind gets adopted by Budweiser. And then he ends up riding in the front, up with the guys on the carriage being pulled by the Clydesdale. And he passes the firehouse and he gives a look to the firehouse dog. I thought that was one of the classic Budweiser ones.
Kind of the Horatio Alger.
Yeah. It was sweet. It was a very sweet and well done. I mean, they always had these creative commercials, but the economics of the Super Bowl is something, right? One of the most, I don't know, 40 million people. I don't know what the numbers are going to be, but let me ask you this, because I said, I think before you joined, I talked about the halftime show. Are you going to have a split? Are you going to have the option for people to watch Turning Point's All-American halftime show? You're going to change the channel, or you're going to just stay on Bad Bunny for the halftime?
Well, Joe, I don't know if I'd call it an option. I think I would call it a mandate that we are going to change the channel in my house and try to watch the Turning Point. It's not an option for anybody here.
Yeah.
If you're within these 4 walls watching the Super Bowl, you are going to be, it's mandated, switching away from Bad Bunny. But who knows? Maybe we'll have a TV on just watching Bad Bunny, just in case something outrageous happens, which is a very distinct possibility. It may be kind of an interesting thing just to have a small hand in it.
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of hit it. I think most people are going to have both on because they don't want to miss, like you said, what he says and what could happen there. And they want to see, of course, the Kid Rock and the other artist in the Turning Point one. And I get it. The controversy's there. It's like, I think about this stuff, Jerry. I'm like, can't we have anything nice anymore? Why does everything have to be politicized and turned into this? And that includes, family gatherings, whether it's Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, christenings. You get people who are not talking to the family members because of politics or because they don't agree with them. And I don't remember that ever being the case when I was a younger guy. Certainly not as a kid when you're tuned out of that stuff. But it seemed like this really started with the first election of Donald Trump, that they got so deranged about the person that it spread as a cancer into the politics, and then you had to become either you are with me or you're against me.
Yeah, well, I think, Joe, it's the politics of division, and it's been going on, longer than Donald Trump. I think it's much more pronounced today. I do think that you could probably trace it back, all the way to, Gore versus Bush, and then getting into Barack Obama's 2 terms.
Yeah, but Jerry, back in those days, were people actually disowning family members, uninviting them to Christmases, or
they weren't, Joe? But I think it was they weren't, Joe. But I think it would, or at least it would be rare that would happen. But I think it was the beginning of it. I do think it was the beginning of it. I think it was the genesis of this. I think does go back over the past 25 years or so, literally to Gore versus versus Bush, when you had this divisive, rhetoric that was really heating up. Who won these elections? People questioning a lot of this, and then I think that there have been many things. I think it need hours to go through the whole history of this that has led to where we are today. And as the pendulum swings back toward, the right, with the election of Donald Trump in 2016, I think that's where you see a lot of people who, were on the other side of the aisle, really heating this thing up. I think a lot of it is the rhetoric, Joe. I think the rhetoric has gotten much worse. And that's where, we talk about this at Thanksgiving as well. Your Thanksgiving table, whatever you do, don't bring up politics. There are people who are on both sides of the aisles, and it seems like it gets, and then you look at the riots in Minneapolis and, and elsewhere, and it seems like the ability for people to get really fired up and get, institute violence, it just becomes, it's become greater and greater, it seems, over the past 25 years. People are more apt to do it.
Yeah.
Joe, a lot of you, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What were you going to say?
No, finish it.
I was going to say, but there is a lot of good stuff going on right now with the economy, as you well know. We have the Dow I wanted to mention on Friday. It hit an all-time high. Just think about this, crossing 50,000 on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Really kind of unheard of. And Donald Trump, I know he has given President Trump to, a lot of hyperbole, but he was saying that, during his term, he's expecting that the Dow is going to hit 100,000 with all the investment coming into the United States. He thinks he's going to double the Dow Jones Industrial Average between now and the time he leaves office.
Hey, Jerry, hold on. We got to take that quick break. I was mesmerized by your talk.
Local radio
we'll be back
is
in a moment,
next.
folks.
Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Here we go again.
Tired of rush doctor's visits? Are you finding it tough to get a doctor's appointment? And when you finally do, are you in and out before you know it? Did your doctor take the time to ask about your diet or exercise routine? Did they order the right lab tests? And how do you know if these are the labs you need and how to interpret them? Discover the freedom of ordering your own lab tests. Phil George, clinical biochemist and health coach, can guide you on which blood tests to order. Customized to your personal health goals, Phil's extensive training ensures that you receive the best advice on interpreting your lab results and understanding their implications. Plus, by ordering labs on your own, you'll pay far below insurance prices. Looking for an alternative to conventional medicine? Phil George can help you navigate your health journey with a personalized approach. Just email Phil at philgeorge@charter.net for a free consultation. Your health and well-being are within reach, and it starts with the right guidance. Don't miss this opportunity to take control of your health. Reach out today and embark on a path to better health with Phil George.
93% of adults listen to the radio each week. Of those exposed to radio ads, over half made a purchase. Despite how often the media reports on newer forms of advertising, it is, in fact, free broadcast radio that most effectively reaches and truly influences customers. Radio allows you to place your company's message directly to the radio audience for 30 or 60 seconds, and it's a gold mine. Radio advertisements are more memorable compared to written and visual ads. It's just this simple. Sound is stored more effectively inside memories. Reach over 90% of this market's potential customers with your radio message on WCRN. Call 508-870-5803, extension 222, 508-870-5803, extension 222, or visit WCRNradio.com.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
Okay, cool bumper music, Ross. Thank you for that. Welcome back. It's the second half of the first hour here of the Peter Blute Show every Sunday morning from 10 to noon. Obviously, I'm not Peter Blute. Peter's out today, back next Sunday. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, sitting in for Peter Blute. Also joining us, as he does every week, Jerry Doherty from Making Money Last, which can be heard weekdays at 11 o'clock right here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. And he is the founder and principal of Boston Independence Group. And Jerry, thank you for joining me this morning. Now, you made reference to the Dow before, and I want to do something because I think a lot of people, they know, oh, the Dow closed at up, closed down, and they know up is good, down is bad. But what the hell does the Dow number mean? And I just want to review that because it closed at 50,000, just above it. And that number is the level of Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? It's and tell me if I've got this right. It's the 30. It's made up of an index of 30 major U.S. companies, and that's a single figure that summarizes how those stock prices move together by the end of the trading day. So that is what that's telling us about how those performed. And it doesn't matter if it's a $200 stock or $20 stock, it's the units that move. Is that correct?
Yes. So think about an index this way. So we typically track, most consumers typically track three major indexes. They track the Dow, they track the Standard & Poor's 500, and they track the NASDAQ. So you're correct, Joe, in the way that you're describing the Dow. So let's go back in history. So if you go back in history, there was a guy actually by the name of Charles Dow. That was his name. And Charles Dow partnered in the late 1800s, the 1880s or so, with another guy by the name of Edward Jones. And Edward Jones, you should not confuse with Edward Jones, the investment company that's around today out of St. Louis. They just happen to have the same name. Edward Jones is obviously a common name. This was a different Edward Jones. So you had Charles Dow, who was primarily a publisher. He was a newspaper publisher primarily. He wrote for newspapers, all this stuff. But he partnered with a guy by the name of Edward Jones, who was a statistician, very smart guy, numbers-based guy, and they formed an investment company in New York City. And their investment company was actually located on Wall Street in New York. That's where they were located. This is all in the 1880s. So what they were doing is they were trading stocks for people. They started a company, and they were trading stocks for people. And then Charles Dow, in the 1890s, he got a great idea. He said, rather than tracking individual stocks, why don't we track a group of stocks? And at the time, they didn't call it an index, but we do today. And he said, if we choose the right stocks and put them into this grouping, into this index, it could be reflective of what's going on in the U.S. economy as a whole. So what they did is they started with a transportation index, Charles Dow did, and that became the first, essentially, index in the world, in the United States of America anyway. And then Charles Dow went on in the late 1800s, I think it was 1896 or so, Joe, and he formed the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which of course was made up of huge industrial companies. And you're correct, it's 30 companies. And it just reflects what's going on in the United States. Charles Dow, because of where the company was located and because of his publishing background, he went on to start the Wall Street Journal as well. And the reason that he named the Wall Street Journal is because of where their company was located on Wall Street in New York. So it's kind of an interesting history. But Joe, the way that you described it, in a good overview way, is essentially correct. The whole point of any index is that it's supposed to represent what's going on in the broader economy, just like the S&P 500. We see the Standard & Poor's 500. Well, that's obviously 500 stocks. And then there are different versions that go into different sectors of the economy and so on. And then the NASDAQ is a little bit, tech, not a little bit, it's primarily tech heavy. So you'll see a lot of technology companies on the NASDAQ. But when you look at it, yes, the Dow had an incredible day on Friday of, hitting 50,000, crossing 50,000 for the first time ever in its history. But on a year-to-date basis, because of all this volatility that we've had, and we're only, 5 or 6 weeks at the most into 2026, but on a year-to-date basis, the Dow is up by about 4%, roughly, for the year so far. So the Dow is tracked up a little bit. The Standard & Poor's index is up about 1% for the year so far. So a little bit better than being flat. And the NASDAQ, that's tech heavy, which has really suffered a lot of volatility recently. The NASDAQ is down about 1%, so essentially flat as well. So we have the Dow up a little bit for the year. We have the S&P 500 up a tiny little bit for the year, essentially flat though, and we have the NASDAQ essentially flat. What's interesting too, Joe, is, go ahead, what were you going to say?
No, go ahead. What's interesting?
What's interesting too is that when you look at these things, like the Dow crossing 50,000, what kind of got lost in the news over the past couple of weeks was this final revision to third quarter GDP here in the United States. And the final revision to third quarter GDP is we had a third quarter where the U.S. economy grew at just under, but roughly 5% for the quarter. When you think about that on an annualized basis. But when you look at that third quarter GDP at 5%, because the Trump administration, remember, they're saying that part of what they want to do is grow the United States out of problems like the inflation problem that we have. It's not just policies that the U.S. is putting into place to control inflation, like bringing oil prices down, things like that. It's also Donald Trump is saying, let's try to grow the economy out of this. When you grow the economy, you're creating more supply. So although you have more demand from those new jobs, it's against a greater supply as well. So, it's basic Keynesian economics where you don't, Milton Friedman even, where you don't have a static supply like we had under the Biden administration. So he wants to grow this. So when you look at numbers like 5%, and the administration is talking about on an annualized basis, GDP, that they think that they can come in 2026 for the year at more than 4%, they're now talking about potentially hitting 5%. These numbers are outstanding, Joe.
Yeah. That it is massive. And when you look at, to your point about, look, the trillions of dollars coming in for investment, they're breaking grounds already on some of these factories. And now people are going to experience this tax cycle, the tax or the Trump tax cuts, right? That are going to actually take effect. Yes. So people are going to be getting back bigger returns, right? The IRS is returning more money. They're best at saying more money than they ever have before. And people are really going to feel it. And if that happens between now and November, and people feel that difference, the GDP is huge. The more money in your pocket, the economy having investment, jobs being created, is that going to be enough to push the Democrats into holding both chambers of Congress? Do you think? They're fighting. Every incumbent president historically fights that, right? They usually lose or either lose control or lose many seats in the midterms. If this is going on, because people are going to feel this new tax stuff this year, and there was something, and I want your take on this. We only have a few minutes. Is he's really, because during the campaign you say a lot of things, and he talked about maybe being able to eliminate income tax with tariffs. He hasn't let that go. He keeps bringing that back up. I mean, could you imagine if we didn't have income tax, the average family that would put $30,000 a year back in your pocket without income tax? But let's stick to the first thing. First time people are going to experience the tax Trump cuts. How do you think that's going to ripple through over the next 12 months?
Well, Joe, I think a couple of things that you said there are very important. One of the things is when you said it's going to be a greater tax refund season this spring than ever before in U.S. history. And that is true. And that's something that I don't know if the Trump administration has done a good enough job in promoting and getting that word out there. You're aware of that. I'm aware of that. But I don't know if the average person is aware of that. There are going to be a greater number, the dollar amount of tax refunds this year, this spring, right away, right now, than ever before in U.S. history. So as you know, 2/3 of the U.S. economy, roughly 70%, not quite, but roughly 70% of the U.S. economy is based upon consumer spending. That's what drives GDP. That's what drives the U.S. economy. So when you pump those type of numbers back into the U.S. economy, that obviously is going to create a lot of economic activities. People will spend those refund checks, in the U.S. economy. So that's a very good thing that's going on there. I do think that the outlook, there are a couple of good things going on right now, Joe. Mm-hmm. I think there's a shift at the Federal Reserve to being more accommodative at the moment at the Federal Reserve, with the announcement of Kevin Warsh coming in as the new Federal Reserve chairman. That's really huge because clearly he has a much more accommodative stance than Jerome Powell had. And May, when he will assume that role, when he goes into his role, May is only a couple of months away. So I think the writing is on the wall for a very accommodative Fed. I think we're going to see a lot of consumer spending. I think we are going to see a lot of this investment that's been made in the United States actually hitting in 2026. So I think we're poised for a wonderful, 2026. I really do.
Jerry, can
Yeah.
you stay through the break, or do you have to go because we're against the clock? I can't control that.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to stay through.
All right, so hold on. So we have Jerry Doherty, folks. We're going to take the 10 o'clock 11 o'clock break. Wow. I'm used to 9 o'clock. Stick with us, folks. We'll be back on the other side.
Headline news, weather, and local information. 830 WCRN.
News. I'm Pam Puso. Amid the search for Nancy Guthrie in Tucson, Arizona, investigators scoured the home of one of her daughters, who is the sister of Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie.
We saw quite a bit of activity at her sister Annie's house, and our Fox News Digital reports at least 4 investigators from the Pima County Sheriff's Department arrived at the house.
Fox's Alicia Acuna, a devastating development for U.S. Olympic skier Lindsey Vonn.
The crash happening just 13 to 14 seconds into her downhill run when Vonn clipped the 4th gate with her right arm, knocking her off balance in the air on the first jump, forcing all her weight to shift back on her skis.
Fox's Chanley Painter, Vonn was airlifted from the mountain in Italy. America's listening to Fox News.
With the new IHOP value menu, $6 is all it takes to go to your happy place, where stacks of pancakes with bacon and eggs are just $6 every day. French toast, sausage, and eggs are, you guessed it, $6. And fluffy omelets come with a side of pancakes and only cost $6. Go to your happy place every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations. Available every day for a limited time at participating restaurants in the U.S. Hours may vary. No substitutions. Not valid with other discounts or promotions. Prices may vary.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line.
But my throat has officially thrown in the towel. Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. Their max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
This is the Peter Blute Show on AM 830 WCRN. To join in the conversation, call 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Peter Blute.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second hour of the Peter Blute Show on this Sunday morning on AM 830 WCRN. Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute. Jerry Doherty joining me, for a host of Making Money Last in Boston Independence Group. And going into the break, Jerry, we're talking about the tax returns. And look, the refunds are going to be larger than typical in this upcoming filing season because of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and those tax cuts that went in for 2025. And the Tax Foundation estimates that the OBBBA reduced individual taxes, so reduced by $129 billion for 2025. And then some estimates suggest up to $100 billion of that could be received as higher refunds in this filing season. And that's going to mean more cash in people's pockets, or more cash coming back. And that is always great when it ripples through the economy.
Yeah. So when you look at the One Big Beautiful Bill, Joe, a lot of the tax breaks, too, are going to people who need the money the most. The tax breaks are especially targeted to America's seniors, right? So you have in the One Big Beautiful Bill, you have, if you have reached the age of 65, all you have to do is reach age 65. And you're going to get a $6,000 tax deduction. $6,000, just think about that, per person. So if you're married, that's $12,000. Now, that is, I would submit, the most targeted tax cut to seniors in the history of the United States. You have to be age 65, that's it, to get that. Now, in order to get the full amount of that tax cut, there are some income limits. So if you're single, there's one income limit, and they have a phase out. So if you're single, for example, you have to earn $75,000 or less. Over $75,000, they begin a phase out of the $6,000 that disappears at $150. And for married, filing jointly, the deduction begins at $150 and it's phased out completely at $250. So when you look at that, what they claim is for Social Security recipients, that is going to either greatly reduce or eliminate the taxes due on their Social Security benefits for 88% of Social Security recipients. So when you look at that, if you have somebody who's wealthy, they're going to fall into the 12% that aren't going to get the tax cut. So if somebody has an income of more than, they're filing, married filing jointly, and they have an income of more than $250,000, well, they're not going to get that tax cut. So it's a very targeted tax cut. It's toward people who need it the most, seniors, and then people who are on, more modest, or I would say more regular incomes as seniors, not these very high incomes. So it's a very good thing. Then there are other aspects of the bill too. So you take that bill and you couple it with the extension, with the permanent extension of the Trump 2017 tax cuts, because remember, had these tax cuts not been made permanent, they were due to expire at the end of 2025, that would have been a massive tax increase, the biggest in the history of the United States, on people. But you take the One Big Beautiful Bill, deductions, then you couple that with the current tax structure continuing forward, and then what the Trump administration is trying to do on inflation, which they've done a very good job so far in slowing the rate of growth of inflation. They have really slowed it down a lot. We're pretty much, not quite, but we're not that far away from the Federal Reserve's target of 2%. And how they're doing that primarily is through energy policy, getting energy prices down. We all see this. Maybe not so much in Massachusetts, because at the gas pump, because of all the taxes that are included in a gallon of gasoline. But when you look at this on the national averages, and prices here in Massachusetts have come down, when you look at this, this is starting to work. It's starting to work. But remember, Donald Trump, yes, he's been in office since January of 2025, so it's been a solid year. But the policies take time to be implemented. Really, we're seeing the impact of probably 7 or 8 months of Trump's policies being implemented on the economy. And I do think that these things are really starting to work. And I think, Joe, to answer your question, yes, we will see more and more of the impact of these policies before the November midterms.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else, I think Scott Bassett has been an incredible spokesperson for the Trump administration, especially when it comes to these policies. I've seen him on some of these shows and just saw a little bit of him testifying in front of Congress the other day. And he's good. They go after him and they try to sass him out, and you're not going to outsass an older gay gentleman. It just isn't going to be in the cards, Jerry. So they have a losing battle going into this. But you want to take a call, Jerry? We've got Ken.
Sure.
Who would like to join the conversation. So let's bring Ken in from New Hampshire. Hey, Ken, what say you? Jerry's on with us.
Good morning, Joe and Jerry. Yes, a topic I love to talk about. He happened to mention one of my relatives, Charles Dow. One of the men.
That's right. You have some pretty famous people in your lineage. You're who's the statue in Boston?
Well, that would be Ann Hutchinson.
Yeah, that's it, Hutchinson.
Most people might have heard of William Bradford. Yeah, that one too.
No.
But anyway,
you are a solid New England Yankee man. You've got the lineage credentials. Do you go back? Does your family go back to the Mayflower?
Well, I just said William Bradford. That's like number one in the Mayflower. He was one.
So you what's that club? I don't know why that keeps doing that. What's that club for descendants of the Mayflowers? Descendants. Isn't there a club I thought there was a club that you had that you could be part of it. Yeah. Well, maybe it's just the Lucky Sperm Donor Club. I don't know.
Yeah, my oldest brother did all the tying back to William Bradford and found 2 branches that were tied to. It's not just one. So anyway, to talk about economics, my other favorite topic. Yes, we're going to finish out the year 2025 at probably low to mid 4%. You know what? You remember when we were kids and they would talk about, honestly, on the old media, gauge, hey, is that good or that's bad? Oh, that's really good. No. They're not going to be talking about this at all. And in 2026, it's probably going to range in the mid 4s to mid 5s. That's like almost a historical all-time best for an extended period of time. But no, they're not going to talk about it. I guarantee it.
Right.
And the other topic you were just talking about, as far as what's going to happen in the 2026, it's a very narrow band, Joe and Jerry. Right now, I'm going to guess in the House, Dems pick up 5 to 10 seats, with really only maybe a 5-seat or so swing either way around that band. I mean, it's going to hardly change, but it all has to do is change a little bit. The Democrats take over the House. But as far as the Senate's concerned, the Republicans have it wrapped up. At worst, they lose 1 seat and gain 1 seat. That's a very tight range also.
Well, Ken, you're definitely on the side of the smart money. That's what the smart money says, is that the House, the Republicans will lose, and that they'll maintain the Senate and so on. But I will tell you, Joe and Ken, in politics, as you well know, when you talk about a 10-month time horizon, between now and November, roughly a 10-month time horizon, that's an eternity. There's a lot that can happen. And I do think that economically, the economics of this thing are going to get better and better and better. And I do believe in the old adage that, people really do vote with their pocketbooks when it comes to these elections. And I think when people get tax refunds, And I think especially when seniors start to see the impact of the one big beautiful bill, that Joe, you and I just spoke about, when they start to see the impact of that, you have to remember that tax deduction for seniors, that goes away in 4 years. That's, 2025, it's retroactive to last January. 2025, so when you file your taxes this year, you get it. 2026, 2027, 2028. I think seniors are going to connect a few dots and they're going to say, gee, if we don't elect a Congress that is supportive of that, this could go away. And this is positively going to impact a lot of people, a lot of seniors. So I do think that seniors are really going to give this some thought of who they're going to vote for this November. So with all of those things, Ken, I think your scenario is probably the most likely scenario at this point in time. I agree with you 100%. But we'll see how this works out over the next 10 months. I think you're going to have a lot of people who are very enthusiastic about their tax refunds and just about other economic policy as they see prices continue to come down.
The thing I disagree, Jerry, all of that is fact. But the facts will be drowned out by a wildly leftist media who will pound as many people as they can in the head, ignore the facts, and this is what's awful. And you've got to be all aroused and stop Trump, stop Trump, stop Trump. Right. Unfortunately, that's just the reality we live in.
Unfortunately, I think you're right in a lot of ways. Yeah. To your point, Jerry, about the GDP, it got lost in it, but we didn't have a media that was quick to point it out either. I firmly believe that in some of these mainstream media outlets, the networks and some of these publications, they actively decide not to share this news. I mean, they won't even carry the president of the United States when he is speaking. They break away because they don't want their listeners to maybe learn something that they haven't covered. So there's a lot of bias here in this. Ken, we're against the clock. Final thought?
Well, stay tuned, and I love the Olympics. It's incredible to be watching from the Alps. That's where every Olympics should take place. It's beautiful.
So, all right, Ken, thank you for the call. Greatly appreciate it. Jerry, you were going to say something?
All I was going to say is that I think that, Ken brings up what is arguably the most important point, and that is the media bias. The media bias is out there, bias against Trump, the administration. These policies are indeed working, and Ken is totally correct. The problem is that the average person, and I'm not saying that, Joe, you and I are smarter than the average person, we definitely are not, but the average person isn't being made aware of them, or they're given a lot of disinformation. They're just given a lot of disinformation. They're told that the economy. Let's remember 1 year ago, what was the media really focused on?
Jerry, can you pause that? I can't control the clock. We're against it. It's automatic break, guys.
Sure.
Jerry, if you can hold there for a second. Peter Blute Show. Stick with us, folks. Back in 2 minutes, 10 seconds.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Every person is entitled to 30 fundamental human rights, and you only need to do one thing to enjoy all of them. Know them. Get your free human rights booklet today. Go to humanrights.com.
Boston, are you ready for a show that's unique and different? Blind and Beyond Radio Show is the only commercial radio show in the world for the visually impaired and the blind community. We are the bridge between the blind community and the sighted community. This show is sponsored by Carroll Center for the Blind in Newton, Mass. Fun, informative, educational, with trivia prizes every Sunday night. Starting February 1st, Blind and Beyond Radio Show every Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. on WCRN, 8:30 a.m.
Hi, I'm Dr. Eddie Arus from the Vascular Care Group with offices in Worcester and Sturbridge. I meet patients every week who tell me they've stopped doing the things they love, walking with friends, standing at their grandchild's soccer game, even going on vacation, all because of painful varicose veins, swelling, or fatigue in their legs. Now picture this, the same patients a few weeks after treatment, walking comfortably, smiling more, planning their next trip. That transformation is what drives me. We offer safe, minimally invasive outpatient treatments that get you back to life quickly. No overnight stay, no long downtime, just compassionate care and results that last. Because life's too short to sit on the sidelines when you could be living it fully. If vein problems are holding you back, let's change your story together. Call the Vascular Care Group or visit thevascularcaregroup.com to schedule your consultation. I'm Dr. Eddie Arus, and your next chapter starts with healthy legs.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right. Here we got a little bit of the echo again. Coming back here to the second segment of the second hour on the Peter Blute Show this Sunday morning on AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, sitting in for Peter Blute, who will be behind the microphone next Sunday morning. Jerry Doherty also joining us from Making Money Last in Boston Independence Group. And Jerry, I'm sorry about the break there coming in on the timing, but yes, the fact that a lot of this information, I agree on something you said earlier, or I don't actually could have been Ken or you, but I think it was you, that they're not doing a great job of communicating this, and they need to do that, because what you shared about the taxes for 65 plus, that's massive. I don't think that's out there in the stratosphere type of thing. People are going to see it in their tax returns. They're going to feel it. I'm already feeling it at the gas pump. I'm feeling it at the grocery store, some better prices. And I think that when people get that, that's going to help. But Scott Bessing can't be the guy that tells the whole country, look at the numbers. They've got to do a better job communicating the numbers in what does a 4.5 or 4.8 or much less 5% GDP mean? How does that translate? And Trump has always said, remember in the running up to this election, are you going to get revenge? Are you going to, because of the lawfare and all of this? And his answer was always, my revenge is success. My two things, revenge, I'll achieve it by being a very successful president, and doing that means very successful for the United States. And how do I fix the Biden debacle stuff? I do it through growth. I do it through bringing in investment. I do it through a strong economy that will, in some cases, reverse, but more importantly, we see real wages going up. Wages went up under Biden, but because of inflation, with the cumulative inflation of 21%, you actually were losing a net income. Real wages are going up. And then a lot of these policies are very much targeted to the middle class, despite the oligarchy tour and AOC and Bernie Sanders trying to tell us, and everyone else on the left trying to tell us that Trump is only trying to protect his billionaire friends. There are real policies that are really affecting it, including the child care taxes, right? If you have children. So there's a lot of great policies. How are they going to fix that, man?
So, Joe, let's kind of revisit this for a moment. Okay, let's walk down memory lane just for one moment. How did we get to this point of this very high inflation that we had over the past 5 years? Well, how we got there is we had too much government spending that created a lot of demand under the Biden administration. Let's not forget that the Biden administration pumped $7 trillion into the U.S. economy through a whole bunch of different programs. When they did that, it was just money that they were pumping into the economy, creating more demand. At the time that they did that, when we go back to 2022, 2023, at the time that they did that, we were still coming out of COVID. So remember, supply chains were not open. So you had a lot of demand against a very finite amount of supply. And that, of course, creates inflation. It's very basic. Milton Friedman, as we've heard people say in the news a million times, the definition of inflation is too much demand chasing too few goods. That's exactly what we had. The Biden administration had created demand incredibly. So now you have the Trump administration that comes in, and the Trump administration is also trying to create a lot of jobs, things like that. We have all this investment into the U.S. So why wouldn't the same thing happen? And this is one of the points that Scott Besson keeps on bringing up, is that, yes, we want to grow the economy, which will definitely create jobs, create more demand. But as we grow the economy and bring productivity back to the United States, we're also increasing supply at this point in time. So, yes, demand is going to increase, but also the other part of that equation is that supply is increasing as well. That's why this whole thing initially, when people were saying, well, if the Trump administration does all of this, aren't we really just doing what Joe Biden did, creating a lot of demand? And that would be true if we had a finite supply, a limited supply, but we don't. We are building the supply out. So we're producing more goods against an increasing demand. And when you start to think about this, why couldn't this continue in perpetuity if you have those two in balance? You know, increased demand does not necessarily lead to inflation if you have increased supply simultaneously. And that's what the Trump administration is trying to do. It's what the Biden administration did not do.
Absolutely. And you know, a lot of the talking heads really, and I've seen Jennings like on CNN try to make this point, and they like panic, Jerry, that Jennings might say to their audience, the solution here is this is what's happening. I mean, it's crazy sometimes to watch him on there. I think he does a great job, but to see the other panelists around that table, oh, you know, let's go to break or try to shut him down. I don't even know what the latest number is. Maybe you do. The estimated investments that's coming in. Basically, every time Trump went abroad, he would get these commitments, and there are actually, it's not just commitments. I know that's the critique. Well, they just said that. No, money has come in. Billions have come in on the tariffs, and ground has been broken on some of these factories. So they are getting built. Now, yeah, that's going to take a ramp up time. You can't build a factory in 3 months. It could take a couple of years to get a factory totally up and running, but it will result in increase in jobs, good jobs in the United States, and more money staying within our economy.
Sure, there's no question about that. And I think the other part of the Trump policy that is so important that, again, the media doesn't seem to report on enough, except for some outlets, is the whole regulatory environment, you know, getting permits for a lot of these projects. So the projects can be speeded up. There's no question about that. They can be speeded up, but it can only be speeded up if you are fast tracking, you know, a lot of these permits. And when you think about a lot of this investment in the United States, you know, people say, well, it's going to take forever for Eli Lilly, you know, to build that new plant and to, staff that with all the scientists that they need to, you know, make these new pharmaceutical products that they're going to eventually be doing. That's true. But in the meantime, as they're building the factories, you have a lot of plumbers, you have a lot of carpenters, you have a lot of electricians, you have a lot of cement suppliers who are going to be supplying all these factories. So it starts off with maybe more blue collar stuff, but then it evolves into these very high paying jobs. Then once the factory is built, it doesn't mean that all of the construction goes away. You have all the maintenance people, more electricians, more plumbers, more carpenters who need to maintain these buildings and so on. So it does go on and on and on. It really does affect the entirety of the U.S. economy.
And Peter, Peter, I did the same thing. Jerry, the other or second level of phase to that, you build in some of these factories, hundreds of thousands of square feet. You got Meta, the Facebook people, right? Zuckerberg, not only is building this incredible AI center, but also their own power plant. But the other phase of this for the economy, keeping with that, is the the buildup of businesses around these factories when they're built, the coffee shops, the restaurants, the dry cleaners, the grocery stores, the farm, like all of a sudden a whole nother economy, once these things are built, builds up to support the thousands of people that are working there. Real estate, right? People are going to have to, developers will develop property around there. Yes, it's going to jack up real estate, but people are going to be able to buy houses because they have these good jobs, and then tons of businesses which are supporting families. And an economy circles, what $1 ripples through the economy 7 or 8 times, because you take you do your job, you get your money, you go and you buy breakfast over here, and that waitress goes across the street and she picks something up at the grocery store, and the grocery store people are going over to the pharmacy, or they go see a movie. So this is just going to create, and there's taxes being paid the whole time, right? You're going to have sales tax and income tax on all of this. So again, the United States, we do not have a revenue problem, right? We're $25 trillion we take in, or we're not taking in. I guess we're taxing. I'm not sure what we take in, to tell you the truth. You should know. We probably know that. So it's not our revenue problem. It's our spending problem.
Yeah, no question. We take in roughly $5 trillion. I brought this up on my program, Joe, a lot. We take in roughly $5 trillion a year. The vast majority of that comes from the income tax. Vast majority of it comes from income tax. We've taken about $5 trillion a year, but we're spending about $7.5 trillion, right? This is how we end up with this $2 trillion being added to the $38 trillion national debt. This is how we end up with these problems. You're absolutely correct. We do not have an income problem. If you look at the budget of the United States in 2019, it was roughly $5 trillion. Today, we're taking in $5 trillion. So if we just kind of roll back a lot of this COVID spending, which really has been outrageous, where the budget is increased by 50%.
Jerry, look at what is coming out in the fraud. Imagine if we could eliminate the fraud alone. What is that going to do? And we're looking at Minnesota into the billions of dollars. We haven't even looked at the other 49 states. And look at the Doge, what Doge found in the first few months of the administration. And I think people are very frustrated at this point, because I think we've all accepted that there's been corruption and fraud, and it's like, yeah, it happens. But it used to kind of be some contractor here or there, double billed, or got a little. But when you see complete orchestrated fraudulent companies and networks that are defrauding the American taxpayers in the billions of dollars, we need justice on that big time. Against the clock, can you stay, or do you got to run?
I'm going to have to run, Jerry.
All right. Quick, any function coming up?
Yeah, I have one of my classes, How to Build Your Own Retirement Plan, coming up at Northern Essex Community College later on this month. You can go to my website, which is bostonindependencegroup.com, and you can check out all the classes I have coming for the first quarter.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. Talk to you later. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Stick with us, folks.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772-1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
When it's time to move, don't just move, Mighty Move. At Mighty Movers, they have been helping families relocate safely and affordably since 2017. Whether you're going across town or across state lines, their experienced crew brings muscle and the hustle to make your move stress-free and budget-friendly. They specialize in local and long-distance moves, from cozy apartments to big family homes. They handle it all with care, speed, and professionalism. Got a piano, gun safe, or hot tub? No problem. Their specialty moving services are designed for the heavy stuff most movers just won't touch. So why settle for basic move when you can move mighty? Call 978-793-6165 or visit mightymoversma.com, mightymoversma.com, and start your move the mighty way. Mighty Movers, moving you forward one mighty mile at a time.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, folks. I don't know why that echo keeps kicking on. My apologies there. Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute, back next Sunday morning. No worry about that. You can join the conversation for the time we have remaining together at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. Of course, you can text at 617-297-8388. And I think I wanted to, before I get into this, I do want to remind you folks and welcome, even though they've joined us now for a month or so, a new partner into the WCRN family. That is Heart to Home Meals. And this is a really smart service for seniors and for families that they want a peace of mind about mealtime. And I get anxiety about mealtime, and often it's just pick at something because I don't want to get into cooking the whole big meal. But Heart to Home Meals is a great option for everyone. It offers a big menu, over 150 chef-prepared, ready-to-heat frozen meals designed with seniors in mind. You order what you want when you want it. And here's what I love about the way that they do business. There's no subscription, there's no minimum order, and there's no hidden fees. It is what it is. I've used it. I've tried it. I've had their meals. I have my favorites now, and you stock up on those. And delivery, always free, brought right to your door by local drivers. And I've talked with Gary over there, and he's been on Handling Change. And I've talked to him outside of the radio shows, and they make a very big effort to keep the drivers that deliver on the same routes. So these drivers get to know the clients, and they actually end up knowing everything about their lives, and they come in and they actually put it into your freezer for you. They're not dropping it on the front porch. There's no porch pirates. They're going to steal your food for the week or anything of that nature. And they even will rotate the food in the freezer, right? They'll pull the older stuff up to the front, put the newest stuff in the back, just to help you rotate and keep everything flowing the way that you've ordered it. So if you want to make a mealtime easier, folks, or you're looking for a thoughtful way to help a parent or a loved one or yourself, again, you don't have to be you don't have to be retired or elderly. If you work a lot and you don't want to do a lot of cooking, guy like me loves this service. Take a look at Heart to Home Meals, and we're glad to have them supporting this 11 o'clock hour right here on WCRN. So welcome, Heart to Home's Meals. Check them out. Find them on the net or give them a call. All right, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lines are open and available, and Russ will get you in there if you want. A quick thing here, Harvard and the War Department will be parting ways. And when I first saw this, I'm like, well, we're good, because we've kind of seen what Harvard has become and what they tolerate, going back to the pro-Palestinian things, literally harassing and hunting down Jewish students. We've seen them tolerate stuff that shouldn't be tolerated, but that's neither here nor there. Pete Hegseth is saying that the Pentagon or the War Department will end all the academic ties with Harvard University starting in this year's 26 to 27 academic year. Specifically, the professional military education, the PME, going on there. the fellowships and the certificate programs. See, service members already enrolled, they're going to be able to finish out the courses of study. They're not going to stop that. But Hegseth also said the department will review similar arrangements at other universities, including other Ivy Leagues, to test whether they're cost effective and aligned with mission needs. And let's not forget, when Pete Hegseth first became Secretary of Defense and now War Department, he was very clear what his mandate was from the president, and very clear that his intention was to bring the ethos of the military fighter back, and that it was going to be the most lethal armed forces on the planet. And that a lot of these policies are things that kind of snuck into the ethos of the military, he doesn't think, and the president doesn't think, align with the mission of the United States military. And therefore, they're doing away with a lot of those programs. And he says Harvard no longer meets the needs of the department and services. The department wants to prioritize the warriors, right? This is Pete Hegseth's thing. He wants that warrior mentality, that lethality and deterrence, and questions spending on expensive universities that undercut the mission of the country. I also have always thought, thought about and said, we know that our universities are not secure with information, because I was just talking the other day about these students who have been stealing the information and bringing, both information and things that they've smuggled out of universities and labs back to China. We know that our universities are infiltrated by spies. We also know that a lot of these professors, remember the Harvard guy with the lab in China, the lab here, he didn't report the stipend he got. That was a couple of years ago. He got arrested. He got released. But the point is, do we really want our military strategy being developed at universities that are so anti-military to begin with on the whole part? So I never thought, look, we have plenty of war colleges, right? The United States military exists to do one job: defend the United States of America and win wars if we are forced into them. This is not a social experiment. It's not networking club. It's not a graduate seminar. So when Hegseth says the Pentagon is cutting academic ties with Harvard, ending professional military education, fellowships, and certificate programs, okay. I'm okay with that. This is a mission alignment decision. And there's a key detail that matters, because people will act like we're tossing officers out on the street mid-semester. No, not true. They can finish out. The policy says service members already enrolled can finish. So it's not punitive to individuals. It's strategic. And if you're a taxpayer, you should be asking that simple question: are we getting a better warfighting leader for the money that we're spending? And we have military academies and war colleges. We have that built in, and I think it should be kept among those who have taken an oath, who have security clearances. And I don't think we should be farming out our military strategy in teaching in universities. But what say you? 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Where are you on that? Let's go to the phones. Matt in Philly. Hey, Matt. Good morning. Happy Super Bowl Sunday to you, man. What's up?
Good morning, Joe. I hope you're not rubbing it in, because we should be in the Phillies of the Super Bowl here in Philadelphia, but you guys look like you could pull off a win today.
We're way overdue. I mean, the Patriots haven't, since COVID, right? We haven't won a Super Bowl since before COVID, right? I mean, come on.
It's going to be an interesting game, that's for sure.
Yeah. So who are you coming to? So obviously, what, you going for the Seahawks?
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. I'm going to go with the Seahawks, and it should still be an entertaining game, no doubt.
Sure. Now, what do you do? I was asking earlier in the show. Do you host a party, go to a party, or just home with family and watch it, or do you even watch it? The four choices. Obviously, going to watch it. Are you hosting a party or going to a party?
Well, I'm going to be actually just watching at home here with the family. Maybe go down to the neighbor's house. I guess I'm getting a little too old here, Joe. I used to go out and do the whole thing, starting a couple hours before the Super Bowl and making it a whole day, and that's pretty cool to do.
Yeah.
But I think those hard partying days at Super Bowl time may be over. But certainly going to watch the game. Going to be interested, of course, what happens at halftime with all the political overtones with the shows and whatnot. So it should be entertaining.
So that is the second tier question to the Super Bowl tonight. Are you going to watch Bad Bunny, or are you going to switch over and watch Turning Point's All-American halftime show?
Yeah, I'm going to watch a little bit of both because I want to be able to comment on it later. But it is amazing how compromised the NFL is promoting these messages like they have been at actually various Super Bowl halftime shows. It boggles the mind that the NFL doesn't really, it just doesn't seem like it's connecting with its own audience.
Oh, 100%. Tone deaf. They don't read the room. We can go all the way back to the nailing controversy, right? And then to have, who makes these decisions? Like, isn't there somebody in the boardroom or somebody in the marketing room who can say, hey guys, don't you think that's just going to bring static we don't need? We're the NFL. Shouldn't we keep it to the Budweiser commercials, keep it to the whatever Doritos, to keep it, keep the commercials. We're getting $8 million for 30 seconds. And maybe just keep it kind of either middle of the road or a little pro-American. Why do we have to do this? You'd think these companies would have learned by, Bud Light and some of these other companies that kind of, look at, what is it, $5 billion Bush or Bud Light lost in capital because of that whole Sweeney thing. And not Sweeney, I mixed it. Who's the one they put on there? The transgender. Why am I drawing a blank? Come on, Matt. I
know, I'm trying to think of myself. I'm drawing a blank. It is mind-boggling, Joe. It is mind-boggling that you're talking major, significant amounts of money, and the fact that they don't seem to be too concerned about it. They do not.
The NFL, yeah, no, they don't. They don't. Maybe they have so much money that it's that FU money. They don't care. Maybe it doesn't calculate. I don't know. And what is Goodell, chairman there of the? What's he make? Millions of dollars a year, right? What is he? Some ridiculous amount he gets paid.
Yes. It certainly. NFL is very profitable, and of course, as you know, they've expanded to the UK, Spain. They did a game down in Brazil. I think.
Hey, Matt, we got a hard break here. Can you hold on a second? We got a break here. We'll come back on the other side, folks. Stick with us.
Headline news, weather, and local information central to your day on Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Boston, are you ready for a show that's unique and different? Blind and Beyond Radio Show is the only commercial radio show in the world for the visually impaired and the blind community. We are the bridge between the blind community and the sighted community. This show is sponsored by Carroll Center for the Blind in Newton, Mass. Fun, informative, educational, with trivia prizes every Sunday night. Starting February 1st, Blind and Beyond Radio Show every Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. on WCRN, 8:30 a.m.
Looking for a station that brings you all sides of the story? Tune in to 50,000-watt powerhouse WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. From politics and health to pop culture, you'll hear it all right here. Radio Central, where opinions from both sides come together for the conversations that matter. From the center of the dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830, WCRN, Radio Central.
WCRN Radio is thrilled to bring back a legendary voice, and now you can help tell the stories. Paul Harvey captivated millions with his unique style and unmistakable voice. By sponsoring the rest of the story, your brand can become a part of this rich tradition, and it links your business with a program that people love and trust. So don't miss this unique opportunity to grow your business while becoming part of something truly special. For sponsorship details, just go to WCRNradio.com.
Dr. Satya Mitra has journeyed from a childhood of poverty and homelessness to a successful career as a financial advisor, motivational speaker, and community leader. Now inspired by his guru, he uses his experiences to positively affect the lives of underprivileged people. We strive to house our blindness, poverty, homelessness, female empowerment, and good citizenship initiatives within the Joy Guru Humanitarian Center. If you wish to contribute or know of deserving persons or initiatives that could use our assistance, please contact us at 508-641-8441.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, folks. So welcome back to the final segment here of the Sunday edition of the Peter Blute Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Joe Mangiacotti in for Peter Blute today. 508-871-7000. Matt from Philadelphia was on the line. So, Matt, what was it that said, hey, I got to call and say? Was it the fraud? Was it the taxes? What's got you going today?
Well, Joe, I have an interesting story that I'd like to convey to your followers and your viewers, your listeners. I got a chance this week to attend a combating narco-terrorism summit on Capitol Hill. I had an invitation from CPAC earlier in the week, a press invitation. I took advantage of it, and I'm actually glad I did. I learned some really interesting stuff about it. I'd like to speak with your audience about that. Sarah Carter, who's our new national drug czar, she spoke. Anna Paula Luna spoke. Great speech as well, along with some other senators and a lot of national security specialists and some Mexican government officials, I think, were there as well. Some of the things I've learned about the cartel behavior, it's really amazing, I guess, but not surprising. There was someone from Mexico speaking that the cartel runs 30 or 40% of the Mexican economy, the national economy, and some people are telling me it's actually much higher than that. And also, this person was conveying to the audience that the cartels provide so much employment and jobs in Mexico that it's hard to eradicate or try to get them out because they're so well embedded at all levels of society. Now, Sarah Carter, at the end of her speech, was going on and saying, the cartel's days are numbered. We really have them on the run. And that's great. And I'm glad Sarah is positive about this. But I think you and I know this is a huge problem. The cartels have their tentacles, Joe, all over the place, certainly embedded here in the United States of America. So I think it's going to be a much tougher task than I think what Sarah Carter was conveying, although I embrace her optimism about it. But to ask you, Joe, or the audience, this is a huge national security issue. And just because we've sealed the border, I think the drug issue, the fentanyl, the heroin issue, I think the cartels are still in overdrive as far as those things are concerned.
Yeah, don't underestimate them. I mean, we saw their business models shift when the border opened under Biden, right? They saw an opportunity, Matt, and they grabbed it and turned what used to be I'd call it a side hustle for them into a multi-billion-dollar operation, smuggling humans over the line. Yes, the border's secure now, so that means they will shift again. And the thing about it is, yes, not just are they so embedded in the economy in Mexico and other South American countries, but they have as close to unlimited cash as you can have, meaning that they've got, they have submarines, Matt, submarines. Yeah. They've got military grade firearms and vehicles and armor. They've got politicians who have been compromised at every level. And unfortunately, I think if you took a close enough look, and I think that's why some American politicians start to get nervous when we start to look at it too closely, because I think some donation money or monies sometimes will be connected with businesses that might not be as clean as a whistle. So this is huge. Trump has taken a very different approach too, right? I mean, he's talking about classifying them as terrorists, and that opens up the playbook for unconventional methods, which we've seen with the narco boats, what we're talking about.
Exactly, Joe. All great points there. My concern is, well, Trump apparently authorized special ops inside of Mexico to combat the cartels. And I don't know if we've ever discussed this before on some of my previous calls, Joe. Should we be concerned if we put too much pressure on the cartels? I'm not letting them off the hook, that we will eventually see blowback here in the United States. And that is to say, potentially terrorist activity. Because as you mentioned, Joe, the cartels have unlimited money. And a lot of people believe that obviously they own some people on this side of the border, Arizona politicians, or in California, some of those states that are adjacent there, that they have so much power and influence that they can do a lot of things. But if we push them too hard, one is to think, will they fire back at us?
Yeah. You mean like kidnapping somebody from Arizona type of thing?
Yeah, it's interesting you should bring that up. Although I think that would be kind of a sloppy cartel move.
Oh,
but
God, yeah. They're much better than that. Yeah. Look, I brought up because when I was covering some of the Guthrie story this week, is I brought up the fact of the number. There's quite a few home invasions and kidnappings that take place along the states, the border of Mexico, that don't make it to the national news. But they're happening down there, especially the home invasions. And that changed several years ago because you talk to the farmers down there and the ranchers down there, and they'll tell you, the people used to come across the border, but they would knock and say, hey, do you have any work around the farm or the ranch that you need done? And often they would give them a meal, let them sleep in the barn or the guest house. It's become a very different dynamic now. Now it's a pushing. Now it's a robbing them, and it's extorting money and kidnapping. You've got ranchers. You've got grandmas strapped with a weapon while they're working in the garden now. That's how bad it's become. But for some reason, it doesn't make it to the national news. And you've got the kidnapping on the southern side of Americans is a huge business. And again, you don't see this in mainstream media. So what do you mean by blowback? I think it could up some of what we already see. But yeah, that has been my question when I heard about this, because like anything else, you start to cut the supply or the dynamic off. What does that mean? I have said for years, because a friend of mine who was an Orion P3 pilot, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Orion P3, it's
I am.
built as a anti-submarine, but it's basically a spy plane. And he told me many years ago, Joey, we could stop the drug trafficking instantly overnight, because our equipment, and this is years ago, what we have the ability, we know if a fly crosses the border, but we can't do that. What would happen if you literally turn the drug supply off in the country overnight? What would the cost of cocaine be in 3 days, 2 weeks, 2 months? How much crime would that result in? So there's a lot of balls in the air with this, and there's a lot of consequences, and there are going to be a lot of unintended consequences if we go too hard and too fast on this.
Joe, your headline there, and I'm going to emphasize it on my podcast this week, is that, yes, I do believe a lot more kidnappings are happening, but our press, our bought and sold press, is failing to illuminate this to the rest of the nation. And the other thing I wanted to bring up to you quickly, Joe, or ask you is, do you believe all of the Mexican government is compromised just at the state, federal, local levels, or some of the government, or how high does the penetration go? Are they not going to be any type of partner that we could deal with in the short or long term?
Okay. I think the answer to that, Matt, is by knowledge association, everybody is compromised in the sense you don't get into politics in Mexico not knowing the influence the cartels have. Now, how much do you take? Because you remember a lot of the times it's take the money or the lead. But if you go in and you can't go into politics in Mexico and not understand at some point you're going to have to make a moral decision. At some point, you're going to be presented with something. So are you there, from day one, being vocal about not being involved in it, but everybody understands what's going on? And my question to that is, who can you trust in the government, in Mexico's, in the cities of Mexico's? Who do you trust not to maybe betray you or bring you along? You see what I'm saying? How do you, this is so ingrained. How do you pull this out? I mean,
Joe, that was asked at CPAC numerous times. Sarah Carter and others are like, is the Mexican government ready to establish a strong rapport with the Trump administration? That's the $1 million question. I also noticed, Joe, there wasn't a lot of Mexican media representatives there. And this is a pretty big summit. And some pretty important players there. Now, I don't know if the Mexican media, maybe they're terrified of the cartel, that if they even attend events like this, they get pretty big exposure. Well, C-SPAN covered it too, the whole event. But it's such a dangerous environment, Joe, that nobody really wants to get involved in it.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, Matt, I got to hold you there. I got one more call I got to get in before the end of the hour. Thank you so much. Great questions you bring up. Let's talk soon. Thank you so much, Matt. Hey, Maureen, let's get you in before the end of the show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. What say you, Maureen?
Hi. I'd like to know how much of our tax money is going to the governor's trip to the Super Bowl. Nice long weekend. And here we are in Massachusetts. Her people are freezing.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of people, the electric bill, your heating bill. Yeah. And don't forget, she stopped 2 pipelines from coming in. I know she wants to rewrite history with that, but she bragged about it at the time. Yeah. That's a good question.
Hey, real quick,
yeah.
One more thing. Yeah. So Super Bowl, we're staying home. My husband and I, rest of my family's warm in their house. During the halftime, I don't want to get into any of this crap. We're going to play laser tag with the cat.
Is that when you just put the pointer on the ground and get them crazy?
Oh, you put the wall, the ground, down the stairs, up the stairs.
All right.
In other words, it's going to be more enjoyable.
Okay, so you did. So you're not even going to watch the Turning Point halftime All American?
No, and that's I lean that way, but to me it's just all political.
Right. So your solution to this, Maureen, is just to bow out of it.
Exactly. Yep.
There you go. Okay. You know what? That's another option we'll put up there. Yeah. Watch one, watch the other, watch both. Let's add that option or bow out of it. All right.
Enjoy the game.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you for the call, and thank everybody for listening to the Peter Blute Show. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Back tomorrow afternoon, 1:00. Tune in here to AM 830 WCRN. Peter will be back next weekend. Hey, enjoy the Super Bowl tonight, no matter how you're doing it. Joe out.